This is estate planning attorney Jason Lindamood, and today I want to talk about whether a successor trustee can change your trust. So this comes up if we've gone the route of executing a revocable trust rather than a last will and testament. Let's assume we've drafted a trust because we don't want our loved ones to have to go hire a probate lawyer and go through a few months of probate after we die. Typically, we will be our own primary trustee while we are alive, meaning that we can change, we can amend, revoke, add, or do anything else to our trust that we want with fewer formalities than having to redraft an entire will. So that's one of the more significant benefits to using a trust as the nucleus of our estate plan rather than a conventional last will and testament. So we are going to be our own primary trustee, typically. And we're also going to name a successor trustee to make sure that our affairs are taken care of after we die or if we were to become incapacitated. Think hospitalization for a month, we're unconscious, we need somebody to step in and handle things for us. Similar to a power of attorney, which we've talked about in other videos. But we want a successor trustee to step into our shoes if something were to happen. A successor trustee can do things like making sure our beneficiaries receive the portions of our estate that we've left them and things of that nature. The question is, can a successor trustee on their own volition step in and make substantive or substantial changes to the terms of our trust? In other words, exactly how much power does the successor trustee have, and do they have enough power to harm our beneficiaries? Pretty important question. The answer is they have some latitude as to what they can do, but nothing substantial that would materially alter our wishes as laid out in the trust that we've created. An example of a couple of things that a successor trustee can do would be to appoint another successor trustee. If, for instance, they themselves, the people we've appointed, couldn't perform the job for whatever reason, and you haven't specifically listed a successor to the successor in your trust, which is always a good idea, by the way, just in case something happens to the first successor. So a successor trustee can also normally change the governing law and the situs of the trust. And when we talk about the situs of the trust, we're referring to the state that the trust was drafted and executed in. And sometimes it's more advantageous for tax purposes, typically, to change the trust situs, which is a legal term, so that is an area where a successor trustee has some latitude, and by changing the governing law, and by changing the state or the situs where the trust is now going to be based out of, could be fairly significant and substantial in terms of saving money on taxes, which is a pretty good reason to allow that change to occur if it's appropriate depending on the circumstances. The last thing that comes to mind is that if the assets in the trust are distributed to the point that there's virtually nothing left, then the successor trustee can close up the trust and simply distribute the remaining assets to the beneficiaries. Most trusts allow for trustee fees to be paid to the person who has spent their time and put in a significant amount of effort managing and maintaining this trust. So once it becomes cost prohibitive for everyone, especially for the beneficiaries that we've named, then it just makes good sense to allow the trustee the power to make final distributions and wind up the trust since its purpose has already been accomplished. But other than those rather narrow exceptions, a successor trustee does not have the power to make any material changes to what your intent is relating to where you want your property to go, to whom you want it to go to, and how your beneficiary or beneficiaries are to receive it. I think that's it for today. If this video is helpful and you're in a position to either like, share, or leave a comment, that is always greatly appreciated. And as always, I'll talk to you again soon.